Hi, I'm Steve Burg, CEO of Aish. Welcome to the Good with Money podcast, where we invite exceptionally successful people to share their ideas about the two things that we at Aish are most passionate about. How can human beings reach their highest potential, and how can we work together to make the world a better, happier, more peaceful place? And just before we get started, please take a moment to subscribe to our YouTube channel and feel free to like and comment below. Today is my honestly great pleasure to introduce Adam Milstein. Welcome, Adam.
Thank you, Rabbi Berg. It's always a pleasure speaking with you. We met a few years ago here in my office.
That's right.
Here we meet again.
Absolutely. And I was saying I want to get more of your background, but I'm so excited to get into your work. I feel myself a little bit holding back. This is a conversation I've been really waiting for a while. Adam, could you maybe tell us a little bit about your background? You have such an interesting background. I know a lot of your work is on Israeli Americans, but you have a background in Israel and shifted onto America. So tell us a little bit about growing up in Israel and kind of what focused your values.
Absolutely. So I was born in Israel and grew up in Israel, born in 52. And during 1973, the Yom Kippur War, I served my mandatory duty. And I actually was stationed in the Egyptian front. I crossed the Suez Canal with the Ariel Sharon brigades. I think it was a unbelievable experience for me. But the fact that I came out alive made me, first of all, stronger and also determined to do good things in life. And after being released from the army, I got married to my wife until today, Gila. We've been together since 1971, so more than 50 years. And
Wow.
We got married in 74. I went to the Technion also after getting married. So I finished the Technion. I worked with my family in construction. And then in 1980, I decided to come here to the United States just to clean a little bit my head from all the hard work in Israel. And it was really hard to work in Israel in the 70s. Begin became the prime minister. Inflation jumped from 20 to 200%.
Sure.
It was impossible to finish project, but finished, decided to clean my head, came here to do an MBA. I told my wife, 2 years, we're coming back, let's close the house, furniture, everything. We took our two young daughters with us, came here, landed in Los Angeles. I picked up USC as a school to do the MBA. Mm-hmm. And within 2 years, got the MBA. And I told my wife, let me just work a few more months just to get some of the tuition back. It was very expensive for a young family to come here and also going to school. And all right, so she said, no problem, but no more than just a few months. And then, the story is such a usual story. A few months became few years, and few years became 10 years and 20 years. And now we're celebrating or mourning 40 years of being in the United States. Being here, after finishing SC, I started working in commercial real estate. And really was very focused on building a business, growing up my family, and wasn't really that much involved in philanthropy or any public work. But that kind of changed in about 20 years ago. In 2001, we had the second Intifada in Israel, and I noticed all the newspapers and leftist organization actually criticizing Israel for the terror waves that was taking over Israel. People in Israel, my brother and sisters, were killed, and the media here was actually criticizing Israel for the terrorist wave. And I decided that, as an Israeli, and at that time I call myself Israeli, I need to do something. And I got involved in philanthropy in mostly the organization, the alphabet organization that everybody knows, the APEC, the Stand With Us, the AJC.
Sure.
And through them, I wanted to be engaged in pro-Israel activism. Over the years, from just being a donor in few organizations, I became a donor to tens and tens, if not hundreds of organizations. And whenever I think that there is a gap, there is something that needs to be done where nobody's doing it, I step in. I actually helped to create a project. And altogether, I have funded many organization projects and made sure they're all working together as a synergy and
Get things done.
network. So that's kind of my voyage of almost 70 years in a nutshell.
Well, that was like the table of contents of our entire conversation, because we're going to have to unpack that. First of all, I just want to tell folks that may not know this, the Technion is the MIT of the Middle East. It really is a terrific place, and that's obviously where you started your education. Maybe you could just walk me through LA. You came over, you got your MBA, you're starting. What was the difference in terms of working in America versus coming off the Israeli system? I've actually done the opposite. I started my work career here, and now I run an Israeli institution. But what was it like, just culturally, business wise?
It was a day and night in Israel. As I mentioned, I was in construction. I was a developer, and we have built apartment building or condos. I guess it's condos. It wasn't for rental. And we sold them at fixed prices, and we signed contracts with vendors at fixed prices. As the inflation went up, I was expected to deliver the condos at the price that people signed up. But my vendors refused to come to work because they said, listen, Adam, we're losing money on you. And this is the typical thing in Israel. Everybody is smarter than you. Everybody is pushing the envelope. And I needed to, after finish all the project and coming with, tooth and a leg and all that, I came here. I found America to be a completely different country, and not really the country of unlimited possibilities, where if you behave as expected and you work with people, it's pleasant. You can accomplish a lot, and I really was very successful in business and didn't need to attack or aggravate or sue anybody. It was pleasure.
Do you attribute that to more the Middle Eastern kind of shook culture in terms of, people shake hands, stuff like that? Versus the America is much more structured. You're right. I mean, everyone always finds that in Israel. They have a joke. They say when you shake hands on a deal, that's when you start negotiating. Is that? I mean, what do you think that mentality comes from?
It is very difficult to live and do business in a country where everybody is Jewish, because everybody's smarter than you. Everybody knows better than you. Everybody's looking to how they can take advantage of the situation. Here in America, people are happy with what they have. They thank God. I think we're coming with good DNA, and we are good in business, and we're working hard, and it's really unlimited opportunities. But in Israel, people work very hard. Some of them are successful, but the majority is not. And I think here in America, we as Israeli American, if we work hard, we can really achieve a lot.
Do you obviously been very, very successful, and I assume you consider yourself successful. What do you attribute that success to? I mean, different people I've had on the show have different skill sets, talents. What do you think, if I ask you, Adam, what's your skill set? You've had some success in business.
Well, clearly you need to have a skill set. You need to be educated. You need to have a good sense of business. You need to have street smartness. But many people actually own those qualities. And to be successful beyond just whatever you're born with or whatever you learn in school, you need to look at business and partnership as, how can I contribute to this partnership with my wife, with my business? How can I contribute to make it better? Not what is it that I'm making today, and why is my partner making so much more when I work so much more than him? So this is really the killer of any kind of relationship. So whatever you learn in your life with your wife, same thing you have to apply to business. You need to look at, what can I do today to make this partnership better? And when you're not greedy, and when you think on the overall picture, I think this is the secret of success.
And I think you're absolutely right. And I think that to a certain extent, people want to do business with you over and over again, because they understand that, you're out for a win-win situation. You're not always kind of trying to figure out why, exactly. You said it perfectly. Why does that guy have $5 and I have $4? When everyone is benefiting. Have you had situations through your long career where you're like, oh my gosh, I have no idea how I'm going to get out of this? like a lot of pressure. That's one of the things I found also with successful people. At some point, they were teetering on the edge, and they just were able to hold it together.
No, I don't think, at least recently, I have those situations. I'm very relaxed. I think before going into a deal or into a project or anything that I do, I think about it, and I can think like a Talmudic boy. I can think few steps ahead, and to think about what complications can be evolving here. And I try to prevent situations that can evolve into conflict. And if there is a conflict, I diffuse it as soon as possible. You see, when your motivation is not to make money, but to benefit the community or benefit more people, it's easy to get out. But when you're greedy and it's all about you, this is really a cause for failure.
So in terms of real estate, you're kind of thinking about the community. I mean, really, people in real estate, that's amazing. I've never heard actually someone put it that way. But in real estate, you're thinking about building a community. You're thinking about people coming and experiencing and growing from that. That's amazing. That's an amazing attitude.
Well, real estate is a business, but I don't look out to maximize it. There are people that are getting their tenant evicting and raising the rents to squeeze every penny. And for me, is live and let live. I don't maximize the rent. I don't push out just because I can maybe make more money. I'm well-to-do, and I don't need to push everybody around. I want to have everybody should enjoy life, be a good citizens, and be happy.
Terrific. So I'm going to take you back 20 years ago. Okay. So as you said before in the introduction so beautifully, you were working, you were busy, you were growing your business, doing all the things. And then all of a sudden, there are issues in Israel, and you realize the press is totally biased and is not really portraying things the way they should. Walk me through 20 years ago. So you try and get involved in the organizations. What did you find? Were they, because you obviously morphed into a much more active philanthropist. I'm curious what you found when you first tried to engage.
Well, it takes time to learn the different organization and to see what they're doing good, what they're doing bad, how truthful they are. So I started basically investing and engaging in major organizations that were focused on pro-Israel, such as AIPAC, the U.S.-Israel Alliance, Stand With Us, pro-Israel Advocacy, AJC, who sees itself as the AIPAC of the world. And I found myself in many of the organizations as the only Israeli, by the way.
Interesting.
And I learned because Israelis have been mostly involved in local organizations. AIPAC is an exception, but they were not really getting engaged. I think still the case today with.
Why do you think that's the mentality? Where do you think that comes from?
It comes from the mentality that they're not completely Americans. They think about themselves as Israelis, as temporarily here. They don't understand the value of charity and philanthropy. So they tend to really be focused on themselves, their close friends and community, their schools, their synagogue, if they're part of a synagogue, which is an exception, as you know, and much more local in the way they think. They like to help the homeless and the poor people and the sick people, things that really warm your heart. They don't think as a philanthropist, that they're really local in their mind. But as I was going into and investing in this organization, I noticed that they don't like to work with each other. It's my way or no way. And I'm the best. And if I work with other, my brand can be hurt, or I won't raise as much money, and I'm opening my donors to more people. So I find that they don't like to work with that much, and they also don't like to change. Whatever they done, look at ADL, whatever they done, or agency, whatever they done for 100 years, they want to do for the next 100 years. Whether it's totally relevant today or not the issue. They have their way. And they want to.
This is who we are. This is what we do. If you like it, come join us.
And that's what worked for us for 100 years, and that's what we're going to continue to do. So I found very hard to work with them, extremely hard to get them to work with other organizations. And so I started creating projects to fill up the gap. And mostly, by the way, I hear myself twice for some reason. Did you hear myself twice? Okay, and mostly, so I'll start from the beginning. And mostly, I wanted to do things that nobody else was doing. I felt that as a Jewish community, we're excellent in writing books and doing movies and education and teaching debate skill and advocating for Israel and doing delegations. We're doing excellent in what I call passive activities. But clearly, hatred to Israel and anti-Semitism has been going up for the last 20 years. It was obvious to me because I was in the front. And it was clear to me that if we will not complement all the good things that we're doing with things that we're not doing, we have no shot against anti-Semitism. I looked at the state of Israel as an example, and Israel has a great army and great people, but they have great intelligence, and the intelligence allows them to take the war to the turf of the enemy. When we attack in 40 years ago, the atomic reactor in Iraq, we went to Iraq, we went to Syria, we went to Iran, we went to Africa. We don't stay in Tel Aviv and waiting for them to attack us. We need to understand where the enemy is, what they're planning, and go and attack them on their turf. And that is the use of intelligence, I felt, is extremely important. If we want to fight the enemies, like the state of Israel fights its enemies, we need to use intelligence and do things that are outside of the box and consider going on the offense. So I started investing in more and more things that are outside of the box and that very few people like to do. And I found a great satisfaction from what I was doing and from what I was accomplishing until today.
That's that whole intelligence piece is pretty amazing there in terms of that kind of perspective, and clearly, the anti-Semitism that we've seen in the last 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, and it's interesting, I think, because you have this Israeli American perspective. I think in Israel, people have always understood that there are people giving us a hard time, and we got to have the IDF and all these pieces. And I think Americans just now are starting to learn what anti-Semitism looks like. You're now seeing cops in front of synagogues and temples in America where they were sitting there in Europe the last 20, 30 years. That's kind of new. What are you finding in terms of this global fight about anti-Semitism?
Clearly, Jewish Americans, mostly until today, do not understand the danger from anti-Semitism. They continue to say it cannot happen in America. If we just raise our hand and say never again, then everything goes away. Right. In fact, many Jewish Americans support anti-Israel campaigns, anti-Israel organizations. They try to separate between people and organizations that are anti-Israel and people that are anti-Semitic. But we have explained to them that it's exactly the same. Anti-Israel is basically the anti-Semitism of our century. It used to be hatred toward our religions or our ethnic culture, but today it's hatred toward our country, the country of the Jews. So this is the new form of anti-Semitism, and it's becoming more and more violent. So many of the projects I do today are focused, how can we protect our community from a violent anti-Semitism, not just anti-Semitism on media and social media, which is totally allowed in America based on freedom of speech, but it now leads to violence. And very interesting to see that the people that took violence into their hands during the last operation in Gaza were actually Palestinians. Palestinians took things to their hands and attacked Jews in America, in New York, in Los Angeles, in other places. It wasn't white supremacists. It was radical Muslims who now feel emboldened to attack Jews on the streets. And we still don't understand the danger that we're facing here in America, especially with hatred that is promoted by radical Muslim and radical left.
So it's interesting because I was at the UN last week with Gilad Erdan, who's just a terrific person, the ambassador to the UN. And Gilad convened all the Jewish organizations you were talking about. And I was sitting at the table and I said, they wanted to fight against anti-Semitism. The 20th anniversary of the Durban conference was coming up, all those pieces. And I said to him, I said, all this is great, but the bottom line is until you get on social media, it's totally worthless. And I said, the Jewish community only knows how to communicate in the way it communicated the last 50 years. And Aish, we've shifted everything onto social media. And as a matter of fact, it's interesting. Rabbi Rick Jacobs, who's the head of Reform, was there. And I said, we just lost the last battle for social media with the last action. Rick Jacobs says, Rabbi Burg's wrong. We didn't lose it. We didn't even show up to fight. And he made the case even stronger than I did. But I got the feeling sitting in that room, I didn't feel that everyone knew what to do exactly, but people understood that we are getting destroyed on social media.
Absolutely. The radical Muslim found a way to unite and build coalition with the radical left. And so the Islamo-Leftist Alliance is the alliance that is really targeting Jews in Israel. And now we found it very surprising that even white supremacists are adopting the messages of the BDS movement. They are now, they didn't even know Israel existed, white supremacists, and now they're all becoming anti-Israel. It's Israel, it's the occupation, it's the apartheid. They are adopting all the nonsense that the Islamo-leftists have been throwing at us for 20 years. But I want to tell you that I've been fighting anti-Semitism a long time. And I came to the realization that the Jews alone cannot defeat anti-Semitism. With all due respect, we're not capable of defeating, except for the state of Israel, that is different type of Jews, different brand of Jews. Jews in the diaspora have never been able and will never be able to defeat anti-Semitism. And you can analyze it, but we're small in numbers. We are split. For everyone that want to fight, there is one that says that we deserve anti-Semitism. But I think the most important thing, we don't want to fight. We don't want to take any risk. I hear it so many times. People say, Adam, I can't take any risk. I have too much to lose. I need to protect my name, my business, my family, my home. I cannot do anything. You're on your own. We can't help you. We know that it's good what you do. We can't give you money. We can't give you support. That's what I get from Jews. So knowing that, I said, okay, if Jews cannot defeat anti-Semitism, how can we defeat anti-Semitism? The answer is very simple. It's the first time in thousands of years that suddenly our problem is Western civilization problem. If you look at who are the enemies of the Jews, and you look at white supremacists, you look at radical Muslims, you look at radical left, you look at black supremacists such as Louis Farrakhan, they all hate us and they all share the hate to the Jews. But if you look at them, they're all enemies of America, enemies of American principle, American value. They want to change America to something that is not America anymore. So if we can, in 1 second, think outside of ourselves, don't think about those haters as anti-Semites, think about them as anti-American and convince America that they are anti-American, then we got somebody to work with, somebody who is willing to fight. They're willing to fight for America. And we are not willing to fight for the Jewish people, but they are. So I wrote an article about 1 year ago, and I said, to define anti-Semitism as a Jewish problem is a lose-lose proposition, because we lost before even starting the campaign. What we need to do is define it as an American problem, convince the American that those are their enemies, and really motivate them to fight for America. By fighting for America, we will fight for the free world. We will fight to save minorities and to protect the state of Israel. So my focus have shifted from being, a leader in the Jewish community, trying to recruit people to fight anti-Semitism, to now working with Americans who care about America and want to fight for America.
Look, I've often said that the far right and the far left, all of the extremes, the only thing they have in common is the Jews for some crazy reason. And I think you're right. I mean, it's really outrageous that when people talk about racism and all these issues, they don't throw anti-Semitism in there. We're kind of kept to the side. So I think that's amazing. Let me ask you, just shift the conversation a moment, just to have you. At this point, I want to drill down and understand. How do you hold, you're extremely charitable, you're a philanthropist, there are many organizations you support. How do you hold them accountable? Like, how do you, we talked a little bit, and I'm aware of the problem. I've been in the Jewish nonprofit world for 30 years. I totally understand what you're saying about, them just kind of like, sitting and saying, this is what we do. And we can't really shift because 100 years we've been doing it this way. How do you, when you give a gift, because you're an active philanthropist, how do you make sure that the things you want that organization to accomplish get done?
Excellent question. So I'm no longer making general grants to organizations. I know the organization for many years, and I know what areas the organization is engaged in and where they're good and where they're bad. And I always find an area that the organization wants to do, I want to do, and then I say, listen, guys, I'm willing to give you a grant, substantial grant, not $5,000. You can't really ask anything for $5,000, but let's build a plan we can execute together, or you can execute and just keep me posted, like create phases. And those projects have to do along the lines of what I'm trying to accomplish. For example, if I believe that anti-Semitism is an American problem, I want to work with an American organization that can best present the American people with the fact that those are the enemies of America. If it comes from me, they'll look at me, you're a Jew, right? Of course you're saying it. But if it comes from a non-Jew, if it comes from a think tank or a do thing that is American in nature, and they say it, then there's much more, I think, traction to what they're saying. So every organization I support in a significant amount, I build an action plan with them, even though they can be maybe 1,000 times bigger than me, but they're willing to work with me because they understand that this is actually serving their own interests. So I find the common area we can work together. We build a plan, we execute the plan, and because I'm working with so many others, I am able to demand that those organizations work together. So looking about anti-Semitism, I'm working with some of the largest organizations in America that are more conservative in nature, and they're all working on anti-Semitism. Organizations such as the Heritage Foundation, the Manhattan Institute, the American Enterprise Institute, the Foundation for Defense of Democracies, and the list goes on and on. And they've never dealt with anti-Semitism as a focus, but now they're all working together on really establishing that anti-Semitism is an American problem. That's how you accomplish a lot with minimal means, but because you're active, you actually, I think, create the plan, make sure it's executed, and then connect between the dots. You can accomplish so much more together.
What's amazing about this conversation is that it sounds to me like what you learned at USC Business School, you've applied to philanthropy. And I tell everyone the greatest summer of my life was I went to Harvard Business School for a nonprofit management course. And, just seeing and being able to put the KPIs down and being able to kind of set that up. And that's what I really appreciate here. I think, and the truth is, I'm going to take a guess here, but my guess is the folks on the nonprofit side probably also appreciate it because you're helping them make things clear. You're helping them, it's just kind of zero in on what they want to get done and how to get it done.
Absolutely. So active philanthropy is somebody that has the complete package. It's not common in philanthropy. Usually you have people that write checks, right, or you have the professionals that run foundations that they are bureaucrat in nature and they've been in different organizations for all their life. For me, it's a combination. I'm a businessman, so I'm using business skills to actually create projects and to move them forward and use my connection, use my vision. And there's so much more. I think I'm very lucky. There's not too many people in my situation. There are many rich people, or there are many people that have time, or many people with great ideas. The problem is to do it together because the people that write checks just want to write checks. The people that have idea are wasting all their time trying to sell their ideas. I can put it together. I have an idea. I can execute it. I can connect. I was put in a special situation, and I'm using it to be a very active and effective philanthropist. I want to tell you something that I need to tell you. When I started in this business in real estate, I connected with a modern Orthodox partner. His name is David. And as a modern Orthodox, charity is part of life, and you give at least 10% of your earning to charity. It's not a question. This is life. But David told me something that was very fascinating. He said, Adam, it doesn't work like that. It's not that you give 10% of your earning. No, whatever you give, and you can give as much as you want, God finds mysterious ways to give you 10 times more. Now, I'm not Orthodox, and you can tell me this and that. I need to see it from my own eyes. I wanted to see, and David showed me, listen, look at this. We just gave a donation here. We got 10 times more here. Or we did this. I mean, it's not always 10 times, but it's clearly when you're philanthropic, good things happen. And I think it's not just that, but I think God look down and you know, a lot of people are rich, but God wants people that are not just rich, but also philanthropic to do more, to distribute the wealth, the knowledge to more people. So God wants me to do more. God give me the ability to do more. So I'm very lucky to be in this situation and really use all the different abilities and given to me.
Amazing. Well, look, Adam, I have to tell you, first of all, God bless. God should give you the strength. I just have to tell you, I was so excited to have this conversation. And now that we've had it, I'm even more excited because what you've done and the way you've gone, a whole community, the American Israeli community, other communities, and people focus, and even non-Jews kind of focus on this has been great. And I think you ending just with the Almighty and kind of expressing how God gives us gifts and we have to pay it back is a beautiful way to end. I can't thank you so much for being here with us today.
Listen, it's my pleasure anytime. Thank you, Rabbi Burg, and looking forward to seeing you soon.
Absolutely. And hopefully in Israel soon. We'll get together and have a coffee there. Amazing.
That's good.
Thank you for joining Good with Money. We hope you enjoyed this chat and you agree that the very best thing about success is the opportunity it provides to lift the world up along with you. See you next time.